Welcome to Concussion, the podcast that dives deep into the world of brain trauma, breakthrough treatments, and inspiring recovery stories. Today, we're going to be talking about some common questions that are asked all over the internet about concussions. My name is Travis.
And I'm Abby. Welcome to the podcast. So I'm a physical therapist who's passionate about concussion recovery, and Travis is a real-world survivor, had a traumatic brain injury 9 years ago, and has used his experience as a great talking point for us to be able to elaborate and share things that he wish he knew and I wish I knew when we crossed paths 9 years ago. And it's a few weeks ago we did a podcast on the myths behind concussions. Do I have to hit my head to have a concussion? I saw my doctor. My doctor said, just rest for a little bit and I'll be okay. After that episode came out, it was just, and you even mentioned the phenomenon of when something's brought to your attention, you're a lot more likely to notice it. But that next week at work, there was at least
Paranoia.
10, if not 20 instances where that exact myth that we discussed came up from a patient with the question of, I didn't hit my head, I can't have a concussion, right? Or someone saying, I didn't crack my skull, I don't have a concussion, right? All of those myths came up, and it was just kind of ironic that we discussed the phenomenon happened, because likely those same discussions I have on a regular basis, but I'm just a little bit more aware of them now since we recorded them all.
Could be.
And I think it's made me a little bit lazier of a clinician, because now I'm just referring people to listen to this instead of answering the question.
Go to my podcast.
Because they'll ask something that's so directly to, we took 10 or 15 minutes to elaborate on it just to be able to give a full comprehensive answer. And if there's, 30 things I want to accomplish in an hour, and that's one of them, sometimes I will deflect to maybe listen to that just to get a little bit more insight, but I'll give you the short answer now. But it's proven to be a great resource for especially parents and significant others of individuals who've had an impact to the head, to be able to understand a lot of these things that we're talking about are just not common knowledge.
Yeah, and we're gonna break down a lot of we're gonna do one full episode here, but we're gonna break down a lot of these episodes, and maybe even cover one specific question more in detail. But we'll break down each one of these into, maybe, depending on how complicated the answer is, to maybe an Instagram clip or different YouTube videos, so that you can, like I said, like
get
Abby
your answer
said,
and move on.
Yeah, we want this to be a valuable resource where everybody can come and find out the information that you're looking for. And like Abby said, we just covered all these myths, and then 20 questions popped up with those myths. So I think this is going to be a great resource for information on TBI and concussions and sports injuries. And
what does it mean? What do I expect? Where do things go from here? Has anybody else ever experienced this?
Yeah, I mean, I think episodes maybe of even when kids get hit, like in youth sports, playing basketball, or so I had a friend tell me that his 2-year-old always falls down. He's like, it's unbelievable. And he's like, every day the kid is falling and hitting his head. And I was like, well, the main people that get TBIs are people under 6 years old and over 65 years old. Like those, that's
most vulnerable.
How
about that? I didn't know that. I learned so much from Travis in this too. So one of the questions that we're going to cover first has to do with alcohol consumption after a concussion. So we're not giving expert opinion on this. We're discussing this from our perspective. The comment that came up was, I didn't think I had a concussion until I drank alcohol. And then the symptoms became a lot more severe. So what might have started off is just maybe a headache, some dizziness, some fatigue, but not on that person's radar of, I'm really hurt, I should go seek some medical attention. A couple days later, at a barbecue, had some alcohol to drink, and then all of a sudden it felt incredibly impaired. What do you make of that?
I agree with that. So I'll be honest, I don't drink very often. I may have 1 or 2 beers a year. We did go out to eat the other night, and I did have a double black diamond martini, and that was pretty good. I do.
It's a very specific taste for somebody who doesn't drink a lot. Black diamond martini.
Double black, and that was at
Jimmy John's.
No, it's the restaurant. It's like a steak restaurant in Christiana.
Okay. There's some fancy names up there. I might not be able to guess that one.
Yeah, but I know it was good. Like,
not the Brazilian steakhouse,
no,
right?
not the Brazilian steakhouse. It's probably like a chain.
Okay.
But
okay.
Yeah, so I drank. I certainly, like I said, I don't drink a lot, so maybe one double black diamond martini will do it for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was certainly feeling it, and we were at Applebee's a few weeks ago, and Anne's got a Long Island iced tea, and she didn't like it, so I drank that, and that one Long Island iced tea. I'm gonna tell you what, I was like, babe, you're driving home. Like one drink.
Yeah, that's like everything but the kitchen sink for an alcoholic drink.
Oh, okay.
Long Island iced tea's all sorts of stuff in there. But the question about alcohol and concussion, do you remember a few weeks ago we were talking about how a sobriety test is almost reflective of a concussion test?
Yeah.
So those two systems can exacerbate the symptoms that already exist. So if it makes sense that walking heel to toe, finger to nose, counting backwards from a number would be impaired after consuming alcohol, are also expected to be impaired after a concussion, you can certainly understand how one would compound the other.
Yeah, I do see that.
So there's great resources on this. Actually, at the Mid-Atlantic Concussion website, they have blogs on there and resources about should I drink after a concussion. And again, just from our perspective that we're speaking upon is drinking alcohol would sincerely exacerbate those symptoms. So not a good idea. The challenge with that is sometimes there's an impression of if I'm not drinking, I shouldn't be in those social situations.
Peer pressure type stuff.
Those two things tend to coincide. Like social engagement, barbecues, parties, things like that. There could sometimes be an impression if I'm not drinking, I'll stand out or I won't fit in or, probably shouldn't put myself in that situation. But again, not medically founded advice, just on the clinician side of discussions that I've had is there is sometimes consequences with withdrawing from social situations that go beyond just the immediate symptoms. So if it is a social situation that's not going to overwhelm your symptoms from the light, the noise, the concentration, non-alcoholic beverages are a great Band-Aid to get through that time.
Yeah. Or, hey, I'm a designated driver. I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because even if you can have, like, for people that are more engaged in the social drinking, whether they're athletes themselves or just in that phase of their life where that's an important part of their social interaction, they feel weird if there's not something in their hand. So replacing it with something non-alcoholic or some other type of drink that you would enjoy, if that can be the buffer to still allow you to engage in the social side of things instead of further isolating yourself due to your symptoms, that might be an important thing to keep in mind. Especially with as evolved as non-alcoholic drinks have been over the past 6 months, couple years, there are now breweries that will brew specifically for that. You want the taste, but you don't want the consequences. And that allows people a little bit more variety or enjoyment out of bearing in mind that alcohol could be very detrimental to their brain in that phase after a concussion.
Yeah. So I got two things on that. One, I don't like, I would never, like, alcohol like tastes gross to me. Like I wouldn't want like non-alcoholic. But saying that, if you have a concussion once, you're more than likely to get a concussion again. And if you're drinking and you lose your balance from drinking, like it just amplifies your chances.
That's a really good point.
It's like double. So if you get a concussion, you're already more likely to get another concussion. If you get a concussion and you drink, that just doubles it.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're amplifying the things that would make you more likely to sustain another concussion. You're compromising your balance, your reaction time, your concentration for things that would require all cylinders to be firing at all times.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, that you're kind of exposing yourself to a greater risk.
And it's okay not to drink. It's okay to say, hey, what, I'm done. I don't drink, man. I don't have to drink to have a good time. I am the good time.
You are the good time. You are the entertainment when it comes to social engagements.
Yes.
You don't need alcohol for that part. But like I said, it's important to recognize that everyone might have different impressions and expectations of what role alcohol plays in their social engagements. And I just like bringing up other options, because if they are going to withdraw from being in any social situation just because of the pressure to drink, but not necessarily because their symptoms would otherwise limit that social engagement, consider other things, other exciting non-alcoholic drinks, or just drinks that would taste like alcohol but not have alcohol in it, because we know that there are some consequences after having a concussion if you were to drink alcohol.
Yeah. So I guess the consensus is drinking alcohol after a concussion is not going to like send you into some sort of cardiac arrhythmia and your brain's going to stop working, but you might fall down and hit your head again.
And your symptoms might become a little bit more severe. Since those two systems are influenced in the same way that we assess whether you've been under the influence of alcohol is the same way that we would, not exactly the same, it has some carryover to how we would assess if there's been an injury to your brain.
Yeah.
So next,
drinking and concussion
don't go together. Even if you're suspicious, you could have a concussion. As this person explained, they didn't feel like they had one until they drank and then couldn't shake that feeling. Take that as a fair warning that there might be some underlying consequences.
Yeah. Not recommending to drink or not to drink. That is your decision.
Just know the consequences and know where to find the information.
And even if you didn't have a concussion, please don't drink and drive.
Good advice is there. The next one is wondering if anyone else has had to change careers as a result of a concussion or post-concussion syndrome. What are your thoughts on that?
I would imagine there has to be people that have to change careers, because I mean, if you think about it, say a lot of things change when you have a concussion, and it's not just inside you. It's like it's not just your neurons. It's the way you feel about certain things, or your ability to do tasks that you could use to do easy. Like that, it could be much harder now.
So say, for instance, let's say you're a backup dancer for Pink.
Okay.
Now, that job requires an awful lot of physical exertion, balance, around loud noises, around bright lights, a lot of concentration. Would you imagine that person, if they had a severe concussion, might need to change careers?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that's a really hard reality behind this, is that if your job does involve those higher symptom exposure events, what does that mean for you if that's the job you love?
Yeah, that's a big one.
And what does that mean if you worked your entire life to get to that job?
And you finally got it, and then you were out. You got a concussion from no fault of your own. You were maybe just driving and you were at a red light and somebody hit you from the back and your head whipped back, no fault of your own. And now you're forced to change careers.
Now that's like the worst case scenario, is that you can't get back to that. And the hard part from my perspective is that's not a reality we want to address, because good concussion recovery is going to put the brain and the body through the exposures that it needs to be able to tolerate those things again, to be able to tolerate high level exertion, good balance, dexterity, everything it would take. Because the reason I picked Pink as the example is because her backup dancers do some wildly acrobatic things. Have you ever been to a Pink concert?
No, I know Pink though, the band,
the person,
or the chick. Yeah. So yeah, I like Pink.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Never been to one.
It's the best live concert I've ever seen. I think I've been to 3.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's cool. What songs does she sing?
Oh, all sorts of songs. She has quite a repertoire. I'll send you a discography later on. You'll recognize just about all of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but that concert experience is really engaging. It's very high physical demand on the people performing. So that was one, like I said, that would be a good example, because you could be, let's say, a backup dancer for Cher or another artist that might not be as high of a physical demand or as high of a concentration demand. But that one stood out to me as a good example for all cylinders have to be firing at all times, perfectly coordinated, perfectly in sync. So, but like I said, from my perspective, the idea is that regardless of the demands You want to tailor the rehab or the recovery to meet those demands so somebody's not being forced to change jobs. But without that opportunity to have the right rehab at the right time, we could certainly imagine how some people are being forced to find another career.
Yeah. It's like if you've bench pressed 225 pounds and you're good and that's what you do, but then you stop working out for 2 years and you go and you try to bench press 225 again, like you're going to hurt yourself. So you want to build back up to 225 slowly, like you did normally. And it may come a little bit faster because, there's muscle memory and stuff, and maybe your brain works the same way. But if you just jump right back in, you might hurt yourself.
Yep, needs to have the appropriate recovery at the right time. So another question along the post-concussive side, can post-concussion syndrome last several years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it can last. And I guess it's depending on how severe your concussion is. But, I mean, it's been 9 years, and I still feel issues.
From the concussion.
From that concussion.
Yeah. So, yeah, and we talked about post-concussion syndrome, I think, last week, and that is the reality behind it, that if it's not treated, it can last for years. And as we discussed, unfortunately, it can lead to some things being diagnosed incorrectly because of the lack of awareness of post-concussion syndrome.
Right. Like kids, they get hit in the head. A few years later, they might say, oh, he has ADHD. But it's not ADHD. It's concussion. That was not properly rehabilitated.
Mm-hmm.
There was no rehabilitation. And that is now why he is being diagnosed with ADHD.
And then the example of concussion versus generalized anxiety disorder. There's a lot of carryover in symptoms that could lead you down the path of being treated for anxiety that really a more in-depth interview could have led to this all started after this car accident, or this all started after this sports-related injury, because of the close tie-over from the anxiety side and post-concussion syndrome.
So Des is being treated for anxiety. Now, when she was little, when she was 3, she was like spinning around and she fell and she hit her head super hard and like a big, huge goose egg come up. I wonder, to try to actually tie that in would be extremely difficult. Now, when you first said that, I was thinking, well, maybe that time she hit her head, maybe that's why she's a little, anxious.
Yeah, it just makes you think about things a little bit differently. And like, it doesn't mean that those things have to be connected and that she needs to be treated for post-concussion syndrome. It just means that if you're thinking about things in a more comprehensive way, then you're going to be on the side of things that's more the concussion detector than the concussion ignorant.
Yeah.
If you don't know what it is and what the consequences are, you're more likely to miss things that could be a lot more significant and have a closer tie, more influence and quality of life.
Yeah, that's why you want to pay attention to concussions and concussion symptoms. And information is power, you know. And it could the information you get today, specifically from this podcast, could carry on over into the future and maybe a huge difference in the way somebody recovers,
or knows where to get the right help.
Or maybe you heard a concussion myth or something informational on this podcast, and you see this friend of yours or son or daughter or whoever acting in the same manner, and you're armed with this knowledge, and you say, oh man, that might be a concussion, like the way he's acting. Mm-hmm. Like I heard this on Travis and Abby's podcast, Concussion.
And that ties in perfectly to the next question. Someone had asked if their occupational health provider cleared them to return to work, but they don't feel ready. What can they do? So to put that in context, occupational health provider, they're probably seeing them because they were hurt at work. So let's say they're at work, maybe fell off of something and had a couple orthopedic injuries or contusions and also hit their head. The orthopedic stuff healed. X-rays look good. You're walking. The occupational health provider, their job is to get that person back to work as quickly as possible. But if the occupational health provider is not an expert in concussions or doesn't have the knowledge base to know what things to ask or where to point to or where to direct the person who's experiencing those post-concussion symptoms, that person might be going back to work
too early
without the right recovery, and with those symptoms that you explained could make you more likely to fall again.
Yeah.
Sustain another concussion.
That's certainly what happened to me. I went back to work a little bit too early and probably would have done a lot better if I had stayed off just a few more months.
And thankfully you had the support that you needed to do that. But if you're the only advocate for yourself and you get hurt at work, it's you against the system. And the system is only armed by that occupational health provider. So there's a lot of demand for them to be well-versed in so many different things. We're just talking about concussions specifically, but there could be other things to have to do with internal function and something, you have an impact to your abdomen or something. There could be other signs they need to be alert for. So I think the big take-home message on the healthcare provider side is if you don't know where to know. So if you don't have all the answers and you don't know why this person is telling you something that doesn't make sense, before discounting that as embellishment or malingering, ask the right questions so you can get them to the right place.
Yeah. That's one thing I've always said, at my work. I may not know the answer, but I know who knows.
Yeah. And that's an important part to have that trust within that system, because the worry on the occupational health side is, I don't want to keep this person out of work longer than they need to. But if you have a reliable concussion expert in your realm of referrals, you have to trust that that person is going to tell you when somebody's concussed just as well as they could tell you if someone is likely not concussed. And I think that's how a lot of that trust gets built, is if you're in that situation where there's worry of exploitation of the system or other incentives, if we have the objective testing that we need, we can paint a much better picture of what are truly concussion symptoms and what may not be. And I think that goes a long way with trusting that referral system back and forth. If I'm going to give you the feedback just as honestly, if these are not lining up with concussion symptoms as if they are, I think that there's a little bit more willingness to ask and find out and really be a little bit more comprehensive in what we're doing. So another component that we actually probably should have covered this in the miss is concussions and screens.
Looking at cell phones or TV screens or computer screens, a lot of people do that now,
So what are your thoughts on that? The belief is that if you have a concussion, you should not be on any sort of screen.
So the only time I find it a problem is late at night, like after, say, 6 o'clock. I don't look at I do look at screens, but like after 6 o'clock, like I usually put these on. Mm-hmm. And that has helped me, to be honest. Like it has helped me be able to see better or be able to sleep better.
So the instruction to concussed individuals back when I started practicing was stay away. If you have a concussion, throw your phone out, get rid of your TV, don't look at any screen. Thankfully, that has now evolved a little bit to understand that screens will not make your concussion worse. They may aggravate your symptoms, but if we trust the individual to be self-limiting, which oftentimes they were, like once you start feeling that lousy, you don't want to look at the screen.
There have been times when I don't look at the screen. Like it's just kind of, there's a lot of things happening on a screen, and that's a lot of information to process, plus, audible stuff and visual stuff, and you're squinting, if you're looking at your phone, you're squinting down to look. There has been times when I just was like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to look at anything.
Yep. So that's now where the recommendations lies, like trusting that we give the recommendation of, if your symptoms start to worsen while you're on screen, put the screen away, look somewhere else, go do something else. I'm glad that that's kind of happened, because as we discussed, concussions are so variable. There might be someone who sustained a concussion who has no issues with screen time, eye coordination. There's no reason they can't be on a screen. If it doesn't drive their symptoms, it doesn't make their head pressure worse, why are we limiting them?
Right.
Thankfully, that is no longer the broad advice. It's no longer, if you have a concussion, you can't be on a screen for 3 weeks, something along those lines. And it also brought us a little bit more out of that cocoon perspective of, after you sustain a concussion, no stimulus, cold, dark room, wait until everything gets better. That is no longer the belief either. So those two things, thankfully, have evolved quite a bit over the past decade to recognize that screens are okay as long as it's below the threshold of your symptoms, and trusting the individual to put it away if it is bothersome. So that's a good one that's become more more well known. Now, there's still going to be providers that think the solution to your concussion is put the screen away. But if it doesn't drive your symptoms, that might not necessarily be the case.
Right, because they probably, when did they find this out? It's going to take, remember, 10 to 17 years to get that information across the broad medical community.
Now, the next one, after a concussion, are roller coasters okay?
So,
did you go on one?
I didn't, but there's a guy at work, and he's like 41 now, and he said when he was a kid, before rocking, like he's on roller coasters all day. But now he's like, I don't know what happened. I don't think he's had a concussion, but he can't do them. He's like, one is it. Mm-hmm. He's like, after that, I just get dizzy and sick and I don't feel good. But I haven't been on a roller coaster.
Did you go on roller coasters beforehand?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
But just were at a time in your life where you didn't need to afterwards because your daughter was grown up, or just chose not to, didn't want to?
Just never went to an amusement park after the whole concussion thing. Yeah.
So from my perspective, I'd say stay away from roller coasters after a concussion. Here's why. So roller coasters are fast acceleration, fast deceleration. So essentially a whiplash. Yeah. And we know that after concussions, some of the muscles in your neck are less responsive. We do know that research has shown after concussions, necks are weaker. In that perspective, a weaker neck plus whiplash in the presence of a recent concussion is not a good recipe.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So like if patients ask me that, recently had a concussion, my family's going to Six Flags this weekend, can I go on the roller coasters? I'm more on the side of that's probably not the best idea.
Yeah. Better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, because once you're on one, there's no getting off until that ride's over.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So once your head starts kind of into that whiplash phase of the first few accelerations on the roller coaster, you're on it for the long haul. So I don't think that is necessarily worth the risk initially. Now, can you never go on them? No. Once you're recovered and you have great neck strength and feel like you have the physical capacity to control your head acceleration and deceleration, by all means.
Yeah. Yeah. You might not have to stick to the merry-go-round, maybe stay off the merry mixer.
The merry mixer?
Yeah. You never seen one of those?
No, what's that?
It's like, I'll have to show you. It's hard to explain, okay. But it's like these little cars you sit in, and it's like, and it kind of spins you all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it like flings you out this way and flings you out that way. And there's several cars. It's pretty fun. I was on with I was just a little kid.
Okay.
And I don't know, I was probably weighed about 90 pounds. No, 50 pounds. I was like so little.
Yeah.
Like when I met Ange when I was 20, I was like 135. I was so skinny. And I was like a skinny kid.
And then she started cooking for you.
And then she started cooking for me, exactly. I was on a merry mixer with this kid when I was super little, and he was like he was like the opposite of super little. And he was my friend, he was cool, but he couldn't pull himself. Like I was on the side that got squished. And like I actually started to get worried, like it hurt so bad. I was like, dude, you're I can't breathe.
Squishing.
You're squishing me, dude.
On the merry mixer.
Yeah, stay off the freaking merry mixer if you got it.
There's a lot of kids' toys that really just are recipes for disaster.
Yeah.
That they just let us run around on and
like lawn darts. What? Remember that?
No. I mean, I know they exist. I never got to play those though.
Lawn darts.
Is that like javelin for amateurs?
So it was a dart about this big.
Yeah. And
it had fins on the back, and it had this metal spike, pointy. And you had to throw it up in the air.
God,
it had to land in something about the size of a hula hoop.
So yeah, it's reckless javelin for amateurs.
Oh my goodness.
That's a terrible idea.
Who thought that was a good idea? Like somebody's getting hit with one of those.
Yeah.
And it's going to impale them, no doubt.
Yeah.
And it did. And they had to take them off the market. Well, we had a set, but
you could probably sell them at a yard sale now for a pretty high dollar.
Yeah.
They're vintage. Yeah. Back when we didn't care about people getting hit with sharp pointing objects that you throw up as high as you can.
Yeah.
Next one here is daughter had a concussion, now having double and blurred vision. Doctor says she's making it up to get attention. What do you do now?
The doctor says she's making it up
To me, my first impression is maybe the doctor doesn't understand where that's coming from. My second thought is maybe go to someone who can measure those eye movements.
Yeah, second opinion for sure.
Neuro-Ophthalmology, even just starting with ophthalmology, they can usually detect if there is double vision. And that's a horrible thing to deal with.
Yeah.
Double vision drives headaches, issues with concentration. Obviously, screen time is a big issue. That's a really, really challenging symptom.
Right.
So
yeah.
that to me seems as though if a doctor is saying it's made up, they might, number one, might not have the knowledge or the tools to appropriately assess that. And then I think the next step would be referring to a doctor that can accurately assess that and treat that.
Yeah.
Or ophthalmology.
Yeah.
They'd probably be a little bit more comprehensive in terms of the tools that they use to test to be able to get the answer to that.
Yeah.
And then last one we'll cover for today. Why does concentrating make my head hurt?
It not only does it make your head hurt, concentration not only makes your head hurt, but it's almost like it could be like running a marathon, and it wears your body down, and it makes you a lot more likely to become irritable. It makes you more like testy or more emotional or more sad when you concentrate and try to figure something out. Like you're really relying on a lot of your brain. Like people say, oh, we only use 10% of our brain. That's a myth. Yeah, that's a myth. We should bust that.
It makes it sound like there's like all these neurons in reserve just waiting to be called to duty.
Yeah.
You know, we got 90% in the background here just waiting for their time.
Yeah. Untrue. Sorry. You're using 100% of your brain. You just don't know it. You so I will say you are consciously aware of about 3% of the things you're doing, and there's about 97% that's happening behind closed doors that you don't know about. So maybe that's what they're referring to. But no, you're 100% of your brain.
100% of the time.
Yeah. 100% of the time.
We do not have brain reserves.
And sometimes I guess when you concentrate, you're stressing it, and it's like you're going you're taking your brain to the gym and you're working out. And it's just like anything else. When you work out, you're going to get physically tired. And it takes time to rebuild back up. So I think that's why when Abby is such an advocate for slow, steady recovery, concentration you could be concentrating too hard for too long, and you're putting your brain into overload, like going to a busy shopping mall or something like that, where you're looking at everything and you're seeing everything, and all these neurons are firing all this electricity through your brain, and your brain is like, hey bro, you need to chill. I need some rest. And then it makes you feel tired because it's like, dude, you need to just lay down and go to sleep.
I think that's a really good example of how to visualize that. And that is a question that comes up often. Why does my head hurt when I think? It's kind of the way it gets phrased to me, but really it's that level of concentration. So the way that you gave the example of physical fitness, how you build up muscle capacity so that at one time what might be very hard and very taxing and cause body ache, body pain. Same thing happens with the brain. So with concentrating, you're going from the areas in the front of the brain more towards the middle part of the brain or even the back of the brain. And that pathway, if you do it one time in a simple manner, just like doing a 3-pound bicep curl, but that level of concentration might increase to, I need to recall something from a different area of my brain while making it fit the context of what I'm currently doing, different area of the brain. All of that adds load. So that increases it to maybe a 30-pound or 50-pound bicep curl. The same way we train physical exertion, we train concentration. That takes it from something that is immediately symptomatic and bothersome to eventually something that is tolerable, going back to a automated phase, something that's subconscious, like you explained, that we're maybe only thinking about a small percentage of what we do. Everything else seems so automated. Thinking about the words that I'm going to say, the impression I want to make, all that is thankfully automated. But if that system gets disrupted due to some electrical shearing, it then becomes very thoughtful and is more exerting. It takes more of a physical lift to get that process accomplished. And that's what makes it so symptomatic.
Yeah.
But with purposely isolating it, perfecting it, building it, it's the same way that you can build the physical strength in the gym.
Yeah. It's kind of like, say you've worked overtime for like 6 months. You're on this big project and you're working this overtime and you have just loads of money. And you can go out to wherever, whatever restaurant, you can, buy double black diamond martinis that are $12.50 and, but when you get a concussion, you are now reduced back to your normal schedule and you do not have that amount of money anymore. And sometimes you may still try to spend that amount of money and you come up like short on another bill. So you have your brain allowance decreases after a concussion and you may still be spending when that maxed out capacity. It's like your what's that saying? Caviar taste on a
something budget.
Something budget, yeah. That's kind of like what it is,
Yeah.
You have a little bit less money in your pocket.
You just have to build it back up.
You just have to build it back up.
Yep. Yeah, concentration can recover. Impulse control can recover. These things are all things that can be trained. It's just important to train them, to perfect them, to build them back up.
Yeah, and that's why we're here. That's what we're going to help you do. Give you information on it. So stay around, write a comment, leave a comment. If you find that an issue, let us know what you have problems with.
Or even just leave a question like these folks. We can not give direct advice, but just discuss from our perspectives what we've encountered and our thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you all again next time.
See ya.